You're someone with a vision for your practice, for your side hustle, and for your personal journey. But when it comes to establishing your path on how to get to where you want to be with your practice, things get a little messy. You're also someone who'd prefer to go in person instead of to groups and listening to everyone else's story. To me, it sounds like you could benefit from one-on-one consulting with our experienced practice of the practice consultants. From $5.95 a month and up, you can work with a consultant that will give you more direction and practical tried and tested tips matched to you and your goals. For more information, visit practiceofthepractice.com/apply. Again, that's practiceofthepractice.com/apply. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 1296. Welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast. I am Joe Sanok, your host, where we help you build a thriving private practice you absolutely love. We are so excited to have you here today, hanging out with us. Now, back in May of 2025, we put on the Group Practice Conference. And at this conference, I had this dream of putting on a conference that was unlike any other. I wanted the feeling to be like connections, that people had time to meet each other. I always hated conferences where the parts that I love the most, probably getting dinner with new people or having drinks at the end of the evening, that part was so small in the calendar. And I spent most of my time just running between breakout sessions and keynotes and all of that. And the other side of it was oftentimes it felt like I would be in a session and it'd be a 90-minute session. And I really only got about 10 to 20 minutes worth of content. There's a lot of fluff in there. It just felt like get to the point. And so for what we decided to do with the Group Practice Conference was we decided that we would have 20-minute sessions on the main stage, all of our keynotes, 20 minutes, and that we would have ample time for breakout sessions, and to have time to dig in, to talk about group practice, to get to know people, and to encourage people that if they're having a great conversation, keep that going. You don't have to come back in. Continue those conversations going. And so we found that the folks that came to the Group Practice Conference in May had such a great time. They felt emotionally connected to other group practice owners. And it was just such a great event that we've tripled the size for May of 2026. We're going to be over at Northwestern Michigan College, right on their campus. And we're partnering with both Headway and the Student Life Department to put this on. And our main stage is going to be where the actual TED Talks of Traverse City take place. And then all of our discussions and our kind of digging deeper sessions are going to be throughout an art gallery. It's going to be just such a fun, unique event that we're super excited about. And lots of you weren't able to make the Group Practice Conference in 2025. And so we want to give you just a little glimpse into that. So we're going to be doing a series every week for a while throughout the end of the year where those 20-minute main stage sessions, we're going to be playing those for you. We want you to be able to learn from all of our speakers that we had, and we want you to get excited for the Group Practice Conference in May 2026. So we want you to get excited for this over at grouppracticeconference.com. That's where you can be on the waiting list so that when tickets go live on Black Friday through Cyber Monday, you can grab your ticket. We want you to get those discounts that we have. We want you to get any of those kind of lowest priced tickets. We know they're going to sell out fast. All of our sponsors have committed to sending emails to their list. And, Headway alone, who is our co-host of this, along with the Student Life Department over at NMC, has 60,000 people on their email list that are part of Headway. So we expect, the 300 or so tickets that we're offering to go quickly. So if this is something that you're interested in coming to Traverse City, we want to make sure you're on that wait list and ready to go on Black Friday so that you can get your ticket. We know they're going to go quickly. So head on over to grouppracticeconference.com and you can watch all the different things going on there and get on the wait list so that when that goes live, you get first access. So let's dive into this episode with some of our speakers from the Group Practice Conference in May 2025. My friend John is joining us. He's someone that works nationwide. He's my employment law guy when I have questions personally. So big hand for John. Come on up.
Thank you very much, Joe. Talk about a tough act to follow here. Well, you never start a speech with hello, my name is, or a joke. So hello, my name is John Gardiner, John David Gardiner, if my parents are here. They're not. But I do want to give them a shout out because they're both MSW social workers, primarily on the nonprofit side. But for 45 years, without consent and knowledge, I've been subject to various therapy and training techniques. So my joke, if that wasn't my joke, was when I told my wife that I was speaking to a group of practice bosses, practice group owners and therapists, she said, "Good, you need it." And I said, "No, I'm speaking to them." So employment law is by far the most fun topic to talk about, to hear about. No, what I wanted to do today is really compare and contrast alpacas, Angora goats, employment law, drywalling, and electric conduit. Just bear with me. All right. Here is your practice in Fern mode or VC mode. Now, ordinarily, if you hear VC, you think venture capital. That's Mr. King's speech. If you have any difficult legal questions, save them for tomorrow. Dan's fantastic. VC here means vanilla cherry, and we're going to get to a vanilla cherry story. So when I think of our commonalities and our similarities between and among service professionals, attorneys, therapists, practice bosses, we're educated. You are educated, you are caring, you are driven, you are motivated, and perhaps you often take on a little bit more than you need or want to, right? Sometimes we're all reluctant, myself included, to ask for help. So who counsels the counselor? Put another way, I had a recent experience, and it's one of many that I could think of, but it is a recent experience in terms of drywalling. So for those of you who are not familiar with drywalling, it is highly technical. It is extraordinarily difficult. It is very low paying. And so I decided that I was going to drywall our basement. So it's fairly easy. You take sheets in various sizes and widths, you screw them or nail them to the wall, and then you mud. And just as you can imagine, when you're mudding something, it's this nasty substance that you don't want. You put a little bit on, and then you sand a little bit. And then you put a little bit more on, and then you sand a little bit. And you put a little bit more on, and then you sand a little bit, and it creates this huge plume of dust that nobody wants. Okay. And this was going well for about an hour. And this is an entire basement. Then what I started to do was realize when I stepped back that I had about 3 inches of mud on every seam. So instead of a flush wall, I had these giant seams that you could see from any angle. So then I decided I was going to make more of like a stucco, maybe a plaster appearance, which didn't exactly work. So then I decided I was going to call for help. And this particular gentleman came in, no questions, no assumptions, but he seemed to be, maybe job to job, and he just started laughing, hysterically laughing. And I said, "What's going on?" He said, did you put a little bit too much mud on? I said, "I think so." And he just said, you want like a thin layer, and you want to sand immediately. And so the long and the short of it is he had to completely do the project over, right? So I've not saved money, I've not saved time, and I've learned a very good lesson in humility, right? This was not a good use of my time. Maybe it's good for future stories, but it wasn't a good use of my time. Not that I'm above it or better than it. If you need drywalling, let me know. But it wasn't a good opportunity cost for me. And so when I think of your practice for you, and the same is true for me, right? It's important that I know what I don't know, and I accept that, right? And so when we think about employment law, when we think about liability, when we think about maintaining corporate form, when we think about piercing the corporate veil, maybe we're not thinking about it, but to the point of Dan's discussion tomorrow, when you go to sell your practice, when you go to merge or acquire a practice, when you go to onboard existing talent, new and emerging talent, these become really, really important. These are hurdles that you can avoid proactively, but are very difficult and expensive if you're reacting. Let's quickly compare and contrast to, and I could fill in a number of projects, but I got a quote to run electrical from here to there. Thousands of dollars. Not being deterred, I went to the store, I bought electrical line. I had a shovel. I trenched 17 inches. I put it here and I put it there. It cost, subject to fluctuating cost of copper, it cost $100. Okay. That was a win. It's also important that you know when you can take something on, right? Don't hand over the keys to your practice to any professional, let alone an attorney. Now, why is that? Because of this smug guy, right? We are a service-based profession. Our model has not changed. We charge hourly. We have varying rates. We should be thought leaders in our space. You do not want an attorney to run your business. It is very expensive. We're not therapists. That is not something, right? We don't want to play armchair psychologist, psychiatrist, or therapist. That is not a good use of your time and your resources. What we can do is add value.
I want to thank Headway for sponsoring this episode. If you run a group practice, you know that accepting insurance can be overwhelming. Between credentialing, billing, and payroll, the admin side can easily take over your week. Headway was built to help you handle this, and they're the only platform designed specifically for in-network group practices. Whether you're growing your team or running an established practice, Headway makes the business side easier with faster credentialing, higher per-session rates, and bi-weekly payments your team can count on. They work with therapy, psychiatric, and hybrid group practices. There are no subscription fees, just the support you need to run your practice with ease. Run your best group practice with Headway, trusted by thousands of group practice leaders to simplify insurance admin and reach more people through in-network care. Curious how Headway can work for you? Head to join.headway.co/Joe. That's join.headway.co/Joe to learn more.
One difference between our shared service professions is triage. I assume that you don't get a lot of folks coming into your offices at any varying pace that come in proactively, right? A lot of folks, I imagine, come to you in crisis, right? They come to you needing immediate advice. While that may be something that is the norm in your practice, if you come to a service professional in triage, the cost goes up, you have no basis of reference, they have no idea what's going on, and very often, right, because we qualify things, we'll say, well, had I talked to you 3 months ago, what I would have recommended was X. Now we have to go to Z, and Z costs more. Time and opportunity, fees, right? There's a number of reasons why you would want to at least try to do a self-assessment. Let's do a health check. Let's see where you're at. And try and get out in front of it, right? Because if you do that, here's a couple things you can do. One is, you may not like me. That's fine. There's a lot of me's. I'm using general references here. You're not stuck with the attorney or attorneys or firm if you can get out in front of it. If you can't, you're probably going to have to go with who you got, right? And the cost will go up. And it doesn't allow you to fulfill what your business is about. So to try and define something by what not to do, very well-intentioned clients, often employers. In my universe, I figured out, we have this really high-tech technology, cutting edge, it's called conversations. We have conversations with people, and often in those conversations, they will let us know, they will let me know. I found a way to mitigate my risk. I found a way to reduce payroll costs. Really, how did you do that for your non-exempt workers? I pay them out of two different companies. Company A pays straight time, Company B pays straight time, so I can avoid overtime. That's 100% wrong, okay? So the Department of Labor, any state, absolutely not. Okay, fast forward, different company, very well-intentioned employers. We've got active owner A, passive owner B. Passive owner B says active owner A isn't paying taxes. It's not an issue, though, because it's his problem. Answer, no, it's your problem. It's joint and several. It's non-dischargeable. It can be civilly and criminally liable. Okay. Any number of these instances could have and should have been avoided. Are we doing annual spot checks? Are we looking at our books and records? Are we documenting contracts? Joe got you pumped up for a reason, I know. Are we looking at contracts retro or prospective, right? It's very difficult to negotiate with a therapist if if you need to change a term, right? If the understanding has changed, the leverage in the market goes up, right? It's very difficult to say, well, for 3 years we've been doing this, now I want to do it more, right? If you don't have a contract in place, it's an open market, which may not be a bad thing. All right, we finally got to it. Fern is a Syrian alpaca in the middle. Harry Potter is on the left and right. Fern came to us about 4 years ago this summer. My wife and family and I have been dabbling in hobby farming, and let me take a step back. We were somewhat familiar with horses, and then chickens, and then cats, and then goats. Then we decided to jump into alpacas, which was about as thought out as some of my ideas, which were, we had a neighbor who bought a house, turned it into a vineyard, and in order to move into what was a barn, they needed to get rid of these alpacas. So insert me. We buy the alpacas, we get them home, we love them, they're very nice. They do a really good job at masking things. Maybe we can relate. What they can also mask is pregnancies. And unbeknownst to me, and I hope the seller, we didn't know they were pregnant. And so the cria start showing up in various months. They're all supposed to be in warm months, and we have no idea what we're doing. We don't have vets in place. We don't have immunizations. We don't have a lot of the tools in our toolkit that we need. And as you can imagine, as a hobby farmer, part-time, your children seeing cria just showing up and not doing so well was a real downer. Is your practice in fern mode or vanilla cherry mode? Fast forward to 2 years ago, we had a cold spring similar to now, and vanilla cherry we were ready for. And it was good because she came early, she came cold, she came as a twin, and her mother rejected her. And the 3 pictures show her now. She's doing great. She's going to be a mother herself soon. Kids love it. You feel like a rock star. What does this have to do with your practice? As an attorney, as a practice boss, we have to take a step back and, again, acknowledge there are things we don't know, there are things we can learn, and there's a huge swath in the middle, right? Not being afraid to ask a question, not being afraid to have a conversation, not being afraid to test out things. There are a number of examples, current, past, and future, that I could give you. 1099, W-2, 20-factor, 3-factor, 5-factor, ABC test, what state are you in, what jurisdiction. It's ever-changing, and it's going to continue to change. And so to try and get out front of that, yes, I think ChatGPT, Google, DuckDuckGo, whatever you want to use will give you the floor, right? But to the extent that you don't think that any of you will be replaced by robots or people like me walking around with a DSM-5 trying to figure out what I've got, you're never going to be replaced, right? It's applying what you know to the experience you're in with the knowledge base that you have, using a bench. And similar to sports, you don't want to develop your team in the middle of a game, right? You want to try and do that well ahead of time. All right, which brings me to current time, apolitical. We have seen substantive changes in the first 5 months of this year that really doesn't have a precedent, and it is going to continue to ebb and flow. But any number of all federal agencies that touch and concern employment have made 180 changes in some respects, not all respects. You still have to respect state law, there's state sovereignty. There's a lot of things going on. This is a really good time to check your pulse, right? Mine's very high. I'm a converted introvert. What I think you should do when I say check your pulse is, let's look at how are you classifying your employees versus your independent contractors, right? How are we paying wages? The low-hanging fruit, right? I'm happy to tomorrow during a facilitated discussion, I will happily gift you an employment starter kit, all of the offer letters, handbook, etc. The reason that I do that is I'm trying to be good like my parents, but also I know that eventually someone's going to have a question, right? It's not a document-driven profession. It is conversations. It's how do we handle this? Here are the facts. Assume you're a counselor, your legal counselor knows the law, and apply the two, right? And so what I want to ask all of you is think about, not the goofy guy with the goofy slideshow, but think about the fern scenario versus the vanilla cherry scenario. Your practice may be way ahead, your practice may be right in the middle, or you may have not thought about it, right? So don't let an alpaca show up in your yard without preparing for it. We have the resources, you have the knowledge, and part of the generalization in life is just knowing when to ask and who to ask. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us and listening to our speakers from the Group Practice Conference 2025. We are so excited to have you join us there. Make sure you put on your calendars Black Friday. That's when tickets open up. We want to make sure that you grab that ticket right away. We are so excited to be hosting this here in Traverse City.
We could not do this show without our amazing sponsors. And today, Headway is our sponsor. If you are looking for help running your practice and want the best group practice you can have, you're going to want to sign up with Headway. They are trusted by thousands of group practice leaders to simplify their insurance admin and reach more people through in-network care. If you're curious about how Headway can help work for you, head on over to join.headway.co/Joe. That's join.headway.co/Joe to learn more. Thank you for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.